Well, May is National Foster Care Month, and that holds a very special place in our hearts here at Sac & Co. We actually have many employees right here at ABC 10 who are very involved in mentoring the foster youth right here in our very own community. So author Keri Vellis has a personal connection to this exact campaign, which is one of the reasons why we brought her right here on the show. So Keri, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Great to have you. Yes. So you know what? I had mentioned, our personal connection here, especially with some of our employees, but also the other connection happens to be that you, my friend, got to work with Ellen. Ellen had a part in funding your organization and part of your book too, right?
Yes. In January, I got a call from the Ellen show, and they didn't go into detail, but they said, can you come down on January 26th? And I said, sure, and was part of the audience that received, she honored us all for 1 million acts of good. So everyone in the audience had their part in giving back some way. So she gave us all $1 million to split.
Wow.
And with that money, I funded my book when I was little and started a nonprofit, Kerri's Kids.
Kerri's Kids, okay. And all of this comes from a very personal part of your heart, right? So tell us a little bit of the story about yourself first, Keri.
Oh, sure. My husband and I have 3 biological children, and my husband came home from work. He's in law enforcement, and he had a case where a child died, and I had a newborn at the time, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, what can we do? I want to help children so they don't get in circumstances like this. And at the time, I had a newborn, so we probably waited about 5 years from that point to get licensed and started the journey of doing emergency foster care. And our first 2 kiddos were a sibling set, which we then adopted. So our family of 5 turned into how many? 7. And then we continued doing foster care and adopted a baby 2 years ago. So now we have.
You have a lot of love to share.
Yes.
Yes, yes. And so in turn, because of your situation, being a foster parent and being exposed to this system and the need of it, you wrote these books. Now tell us about your first book that you wrote.
Sure. My first book, sometimes I had 2 little girls living with us. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love reading to the kids at bedtime. That's part of my nighttime routine with them. And I went to the bookstore and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get a book that they can relate to. And there was nothing. So I came home and I told my husband, I'm going to write a book. There's nothing.
Yeah.
And he goes, okay. So we started looking online how to write a book, and it was a pretty big deal. It seemed like it would take a lot of time. So I was like, I'm just going to do it myself. I'm going to use all the money I get from foster care, put it back in. I self-published these books. I ended up connecting with a gal who was in foster care who illustrated my books for me.
Oh, wow.
So that connection was super special to have somebody,
she's especially being represented in the books that you're distributing for that very purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a very special book, and it's a journey of a child being removed from their home and feeling safe, and kind of talking about the feelings they might have living in a new home.
And to help them acclimate to the situation that they're in and get an understanding of exactly what's happening.
Exactly.
And then you also have another book called When I Was Little.
Yes.
Okay, and is that more for awareness?
That is, I go around in our community and I read the books and I educate children about child abuse, which that is about, and about foster care and adoption, because a lot of kids don't, they don't understand what foster care is or what adoption is or what child abuse is. And these are they're very simply written, and they apply and they teach too. So When I Was Little is the story about a little, I dedicated it to my son. He was abused, and I wanted there to be a story, because once again, there was nothing that I felt could be a bedtime story or that teachers could read or, therapists.
So Keri, help our viewers understand, because it is National Foster Care Month. Why is awareness and our involvement in the foster care program so important?
It's so important. There are over 400,000 children in the U.S. in foster care. They don't have homes. They're going to sometimes emergency shelters. They need to be placed in a home environment. And I think that just personally living in it and taking these kids in, we still do emergency foster care. These are our kids' classmates. These are our neighbors. These are our kids' friends, and they need
support and care, not only
Exactly.
from the families that are taking them in, but also from the community around
For
them
sure.
as well.
Exactly.
So, Keri, where can people go to get your books really quick?
Oh, sure. Amazon and Keri Vellis, Keri Vellis.com.
Wonderful. Keri, thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
everything that you have done.
Thank you.
This interview involves commercial content. The products and services featured appear as paid advertising.